Ladies and gentlemen, friends, I'm just so delighted to see so many young people here today. A lot of times when I come down from Washington, I'll talk to a bunch of these old farmers and coal miners around here, and I don't get to see the young people that much unless I maybe go into the classroom or something. But you're all here today, and then when we were in Whitesburg just now at the courthouse, the band was, they were out playing music, and it had kind of a little rock and roll beat to it, but that was okay. And and then the band here playing the national anthem for us, and it was beautiful, and we're so glad to be here. And it's nice to see all of you. And I'm delighted to put in an appearance here with the distinguished senator from New York, who is a member of the Senate Labor and Public Welfare Committee, a gentleman who has always been interested in the problems of all Americans, and has particularly been interested in the problems of all Eastern Kentuckians. Now, I can appreciate the fact that we try to bring to this area what programs we have. The Work Experience Training Program, where you have so many men at work under Title V Economic Opportunity Act. Well, now they tell me in Washington that you will not be cut off. You will not be cut off. That was the understanding that we had with them. Mr. Stafford, he knows about that understanding. But I understand there have been many legions of men cut off. That's right. Many, yes. After he's pulled off the WET program, put into the MTA classes, and after that training period expires, unable to find jobs, well, then he's cut off. Well, we're going to do something about that situation, and we would like to have your names before you leave here today. If there is anybody here under the sound of my voice, because we are going to work for programs under existing laws and do something about these unemployment conditions. I know this is only a temporary thing. We have got to have a government program providing industry cannot employ and would not employ the hardcore. We've got to have a government program similar to the WPA, the Work Progress Administration, to take care of that type of individual. Let him do useful work. But in the meantime, we will all do everything in our power to bring permanent improvements here and to Neon and to Fleming and throughout Eastern Kentucky. Children, we've got so many things to do, and we've got to come in. And it's a great pleasure for me to be here with Senator Kennedy, and I want to congratulate him on taking the initiative to come to Eastern Kentucky. We're proud that he's here. We're proud of his great work. We're proud of his friendship, and we'll always love you, Senator, for coming to see us.
Thank you, Congressman. This is a proud land, and mountaineers are proud people, and rightfully so. But I need not tell you that hard times have hit this area, and the people who live in this area have suffered through hard times. Much of the land has been ravaged by the extraction of its rich resources. Creeks and streams which run through this area are polluted. Acid waste seeps down from the scarred hills above. Wrecked cars dot the landscape, and the men of our hills who have worked at great peril to themselves, their health, and their very lives. These men, many of whom who have been displaced from their occupation by automation, who have been disabled by accident and affliction, left without work and left without hope because the system no longer needed them. Riches still flow from these hills, but they do not benefit the vast majority of those who live here. And I think that situation is intolerable. Before we call our first witness, there's a group in the back if you'd like to come up front, please. We'll get to you in just a few moments. I'm sure our first witness will be someone that you would enjoy hearing. Make yourself comfortable. We're delighted to have you here. Our first witness is Mr. Harry Caudill. Mr. Caudill.
It is doubtful that any land or people has contributed more to the national welfare than those within the eastern Kentucky coal fields or received less in return. It is sincerely hoped that these hearings indicate that at last the federal government is determined to redress this ancient and deadly imbalance. Today, the poorest people and the most prosperous corporations in the United States are found right here in eastern Kentucky. Of the 30 poorest counties in America, 20 of them are in eastern Kentucky. Nearly 24% of the white adults over the age of 24 are functional illiterates. But while the mountains are teeming with poor and underprivileged people, they're also riddled with some of the biggest and most prosperous names in America. Within 30 miles of where we sit today, there are operations owned by subsidiaries of Ford Motor Company, International Harvester, United States Steel Corporation, Bethlehem Steel Corporation, and the Republic Steel Corporation. But little of great wealth generated here in these hills remains behind. Tens of millions of dollars worth of coal was marshaled here in the yards at Neon and sent to the markets of the world during the years when Letcher County school teachers were fortunate to earn $75 a month. This rich region is in a ruinous cycle that can only lead downward. Its great wealth is so lightly taxed by the counties and by the state that its public facilities and services are habitually starved for funds. The cycle begins with poor people, poor schools, poor job preparation, poor pay, and again to the next generation, more poor people. The cycle must continue to operate with increasing detriment to the nation until good schools, good libraries, ample scholarships, colleges, universities, vocational schools, health facilities, and varied forms of cultural enrichment are routinely available to all communities. This can be achieved only when tax reform has been achieved. As you saw yesterday on the head of Yellow Creek and Lodge Street, the land is being shredded by strip mining. The exploiters are ruining American mountains on a scale that dwarfs the devastation of the Italian hills during World War II. Please permit me to urge that a federal strip mine control bill be introduced and enacted as speedily as possible. It should have 3 features. It should forthrightly outlaw strip mining in areas such as eastern Kentucky where the slopes are so steep and the rainfall is so great that reclamation and restoration of the land to its former utility is impracticable or impossible. Unless this is done and done speedily, it will have reduced to a ruined jumble. 2, it should authorize strip mining for minerals only where total reclamation of the land can be carried out promptly and effectively. 3, the federal government should commence at once a program to reclaim and revegetate lands already stripped. The inventory of a ravaged earth is growing daily. The Swiss are a people who have grown rich on a poor land because of the misfortunes I have outlined. We of the southern mountains are a people who have become, by American standards, poor while dwelling on a rich land. The American genius has demonstrated that it can achieve on a colossal scale. And in the southern mountains, that genius faces a colossal challenge. Unless that challenge is met and overcome, hunger will continue to lurk in the southern hills, as it did in the days of Abraham Lincoln, in the days of Franklin Roosevelt, during the brief but promising administration of John F. Kennedy, and as it does today. Thank you very much.
Mr. Caudill, the facts and figures that you've given are very startling, especially the information concerning the wealth that's been extracted from this land, the great profits that the corporations outside the state of Kentucky have generated, and all of the profits that these people have generated have come from the natural resources of eastern Kentucky and made possible by the sweat and labor of the people of eastern Kentucky. I think that this is something, as I said in the beginning, that must be addressed not only by the people of Kentucky, but also by all persons here in the United States. Now, the next witnesses that we have scheduled are from Clay County and some other adjoining counties. Now, I'll ask them to come forward, but first I would like to call Mr. Choke, who has some material information. Is Mr. Choke available? Now, sir, would you sit down a moment and give us the benefit of the figures that you brought?
Yes, I'm Robert Choke with the Citizens Council Against Poverty in Washington. Senator, across the country, 5.4 million people are on either commodities or food stamps. Roughly 29 million people are considered to be poor in our country. This means that nationally, 1 person out of 6 who is considered poor is permitted on the commodity or food stamp program. Now here in Kentucky, 1 of 7 of the poor are permitted on the commodity or food stamp program. Kentucky counties that we are visiting on this tour are actually doing better than average. However, there are many counties in Kentucky that are doing surprisingly poorly in getting commodities or food stamps out to the poor. There are 5 counties in Kentucky that have neither commodities nor food stamps for the poor. In other words, none.
Gussie Davis. I'm from Pike County, and I'm a welfare recipient. I practically raised my 9 children on welfare. I've got 4 son-in-laws working in the coal mines and off in a plant. And they pay into whatever that comes back out of it, but they've got families. I can't depend on them. And they said, Mom, why don't you break up housekeeping and come and stay with us? But I just can't see going, having to break up housekeeping after I raised all my family and take this little boy of mine. I've still got him to raise. So I'm not getting enough to go on.
Thank you very much.
Like the school lunch program now. I think it should be free to all. They shouldn't have to be paid for lunch at all. And they charge them 30 cents a day. And this program they've got in Pikeville, that Perry Osterman and them over there, they get the money. But if you go to them for something, they deny you. They don't want to put out nothing. They don't go out and see. They don't want to help anybody unless you come up with a big shock on them or something. They don't want to do nothing. They get that money, but what they do with the money, back in our parts, you don't know where it goes, but we don't get any of it.
The next witness is Cy Hamilton.
I'm glad to be here with you today. I know this had all come along in '60. Now, I'll tell you about it. In '60, we were loading 3,024 tons of coal a day with 144 men. We were doing good. And it went on a little time, and they brought in this machinery. And you know what they were doing? They were running 3,250 tons of coal a day with just 22 men. That's the hitch. They took all that work away from us. They was able to run that much more coal with 22 men than what we could with 144. Then it went on a little bit of time, and it came into this Happy Pappy program. And if it hadn't come in their county, I don't know what the poor people would have done. I mean, they wouldn't have been able to have fed their family or send their youngins to school. And it's not easy going out in these places where these poor people are still living and still needing it today. You know, and I want to thank you, good people, for coming down here and spending your time with us and helping us work out these problems so that we can get more money for the poor people so that we can live better and we can fare better.
Yeah.
Mr. Hampton. Do you think that there's hunger in your county?
Yes, sir. There's a lot of it. There was this place, I hate to tell you this, but there was this little girl. She was like 7, 8 years old. There was snow on the ground. There wasn't no food in the house, and she didn't have any shoes to go to school. But now these Appalachians, they came in and fixed it up. They got some food in that house and shoes for that little girl to go to school.
That's what they teach our boys. They teach them the genteel art of killing, but they can't take the genteel route of draft dodging by getting into college because they don't have the money. Or getting into the National Guard because they don't have the influence. All these things are needed in our area, and it's been in the planning, but nothing's ever come of it. And Senator, a lot of people are getting to where they were out without hope. These are desperate people. This may be the last time that a large number of us in the Appalachian South will have an opportunity to appeal to Democrats or Republicans. I don't know what road we'll take. Maybe a new or different politic or what. But I suggest that the people assembled here today, with all respect to Senator Kennedy and for his brother, whom I loved, and for Congressman Perkins, that you allow we the people to take over one meeting on poverty and let you know what bugs us and what stops us.
I'm Tommy Duff, a student from Evarts High School. I'm 18 years old. Now last week I was expelled from Evarts High School for taking pictures. To my knowledge, there's never been a regulation restricting picture taking on the school premises. But the fact is, somebody doesn't like it. Perhaps it's what the pictures will be used for. Now for the past 2.5 months, I've been working with a group of students from Evarts High School working on a publication called the Clover Fork Newsletter. In this publication, we have articles on washrooms with no soap, paper, or heat, poor heat in much of the school, broken desks, fallen intercoms, coal dust from the temple, no fire escapes, and crowded school buses. There have also been articles on freedom of speech and press, where school funds come from and how much is spent on education in Harlan County. Teacher salaries compared to state and national averages and profit made on coal and timber in the county. Now the principal expelled me last week, threatened to turn my name to the draft board if I didn't agree to stop working on this article. But if I did agree to stop, he could probably get me a job on the NYC program. Now should I take this offer of a job? Or should I continue to fight for what I believe in? Better education. If I continue to fight for better education, will you fight with me? Yeah! From the governor right on down to the city mayor, they control the WET program, the vocational schools, and the NYC program. I didn't come here today to burn my draft card. I came here to protest, but not to protest against the war in Vietnam. If you're gonna brand me right, but I'm taking up for the rights of all students, his teachers, what education he's gonna get, let it be good. When you graduate from the school in Harlan County, we have just about the same education as the person that graduates from the 8th grade.
The next witnesses, there's a Judge George Wooten and Mr. Edwin Stafford. Would you step forward, please?
Develop the resources and the vast wealth that has left this area. We need to develop leadership, proper leadership, so that we can convince the outside people that they need to convert and divert the wealth and resources that have left this area and restore it to the rightful heirs of those resources. And that's our people. Any man that can scrape out a living on these steep hillsides of ours, clearing and raking and farming land through coal mining or farming, that man has done a wonderful job for his family, in my opinion. We have the most beautiful mountains in the country, and we have the most wonderful people in the world. They are true blue-blooded patriots living in a remote, rusty, isolated.
We We'll be wedded to crash programs in Eastern Kentucky so long as we set up crash programs. One crash program simply leads to another. If we must do something in a hurry to stave off the ominous portents of hunger, cold, sickness, death, and violence, we can at least do so in a way that opens the door to something else, something better. I believe we can do so only by taking the people of Eastern Kentucky seriously. I would like to see us dispense with the welfare check and replace it with the paycheck. And let that paycheck lead to the needed public works. I see no alternative to this approach other than the creation of a huge welfare reservation in Eastern Kentucky.
Washington has the money. It's not a question of money. But Washington doesn't have the answers. What we need to do is conduct hearings such as this, listen to people such as you to give us an idea of what programs are effective and what programs can be made more effective, and quite frankly, what programs can be eliminated if they're not effective. So I know there are lots of problems here, but without help from people like you, Washington can't come in and just solve the problem with that input from you.
Senator, I certainly support the legislation that both you and Congressman Perkins have worked toward along those lines. I think that not only have the appropriations that involve straight employment benefited an area more and helped an area more, but they've also been manpower programs in the traditional sense. I've been quite disillusioned by the notion that sending a 45-year-old man to first grade or training that man is going to improve his chances of getting work. What that man needs is to be taken seriously. He needs to be provided with the work in which he is known he can perform and which he will perform. And then he's expected to deliver, so he once again develops the attitude of a worker. Because he's being treated like a worker and not like a public servant.
Scheduled is Dr. Fisher from Harlan County.
I've been asked to come here today to discuss the problem of nutrition in this area. I practice pediatrics in Harlan County. In Harlan County, around 35,000 people are recipients of welfare checks. And in our Department of Pediatrics at Harlan Appalachian Regional Hospital, we admit between 30 and 40 children a month. And 45% of these children were covered by state and federal medical aid in the year of 1967. I would guess another 5 to 10% were probably medically indigent without any source of financing their care. We surveyed 109 preschoolers for our rural daycare center in Harlan. The qualifications for getting into this daycare center was that the family income be less than $1,000. In doing our survey, we found that these children were smaller than expected for their age. And that's both when compared with standard developmental charts for the United States and when compared with other children in this area.
Yes, I'm Pat Gish, and I'm with the Housing Resource Developer of LKLP. I would like to talk about the inadequacies of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, since it apparently believes that the poorer you are, the less you are entitled to eat. A family of 8 with no income receives only $82 worth of stamps a month. If that same family has an earning of $350 to $379.99, it would be entitled to $140 worth of food stamps to keep it in food for a month. I took a shopping list and went to a local supermarket yesterday to buy for a family of 8. And what I came up with on the department's own list was $155 for the family receiving only $82 worth of food stamps. So it's no wonder they run out.
The next witness is Hobart Maggard.
I'm Hobart Maggard, and I'm from Perry County. Senator, Congressman, the ones gathered here today, the WP program has been wonderful in a lot of ways. It's fed the children, and it's had some education in it. Though by now we've got a problem with it.
Now, has the program that you've spoken about, have they trained men for jobs that are available in this community?
They've provided training, but there's not been any jobs available.
So what good does the training do?
It's not done much good.
Well, does it provide, at least provides a check, doesn't it?
It provides a check.
But you talk about no jobs here. There are no jobs here because there's no industry in the counties or the areas that would even hire them.
There's no, not to provide a job. They don't know to provide a job with them.
Well, it really doesn't make much sense then, does it, to train men for jobs that don't exist? I guess from a statistical standpoint, you could say we've trained this many men, but at the end of the training, if there's no job, then the program's not very helpful, is it?
No, sir, it isn't.
I worked with the WENT program for about 2 years, and then they transferred me to the Manpower Development School. And after that, I had to quit on account of my wife taking sick. She was paralyzed, so I didn't get to complete the program. The WENT program, they still send me a check, but I didn't get to finish the Manpower School. And there wouldn't have been any job around here for me if I had. Of course, I could still work on it. It's a good program, but my wife, she's paralyzed and she can't do nothing, so I had to drop out of the school. You can't get what you really need to live on it, to eat. And as far as, well, I have house rent and I have coal. I had to sell my stove and my stuff to get by on.
Did you say they had a job for you?
No jobs.
Did you check back later?
Well, I didn't hear and said if I would leave somewhere out of here that I might find a job.
Did they tell you that they had a job for you somewhere else?
Maybe somewhere up in Ohio if I would leave out of here, and but I didn't hear from them.
But the fact, these places up north, they're in the same situation, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
Well, it doesn't make any sense taking people out of communities here, taking them up north where the same situation exists. They don't have jobs there either, and so all we have is an intolerable situation where we have displaced people in a northern city with no job. I mean, we have the manpower here, we have the energy here. It's just obvious to me that government has to provide a vehicle so that the people who are trained have an opportunity to work in the area in which they're trained. I just think the government should do it without any question. Now, whether they will do it, that's another question.
My name is David A. Zegeer, Division Superintendent of Beth Elkhorn, subsidiary of Bethlehem Steel. We are quite honored to have you gentlemen here with us, but I thought it might be well to bring out a few points. I do agree with what has been said already, that the main problem in our area is the lack of good roads to attract industries other than coal. Vocational schools, above all, are very important. In fact, Congressman Perkins has been instrumental in bringing a vocational school to our area. I wish to thank you publicly for that, Congressman Perkins. One thing I want to delve into, though, the gist of what has been said here today is that industry is bad, that absentee ownership, whatever that means, is bad. I might mention that Bethlehem Steel has 800 stock owners in the state of Kentucky. They are the stock owners of the corporation.
How many stockholders?
In the thousands, sir, I don't know, but there are 800 in Kentucky.
Well, I suppose if there are 800 out of how many? That's my question.
I would say 50 to 75,000. I really don't know. There are 800 here, but I'm not interested in names primarily. But I do want to leave this with you. 11 years ago...
Well, you would hardly say that 800 shareholders out of that many, that would hardly be called a Kentucky-owned company, would it?
Well, there are 800 stockholders in Kentucky. But 11 years ago, Bethlehem came here and bought the operating property, in our area. The thing I want to impress on you is that Bethlehem coming here is one of the finest things that has happened to this area. But in Letcher County, we spent $130,000 for taxes alone, and we have about 850 employees in this area, which is about 4,000 or 5,000 people who are supported by those 850 workers. And these 850 workers earn roughly $6,900,000, an average income per worker of about $8,000. We own 7% of the surface in Letcher County and pay 20% of the taxes. Plus, in addition to the $6.9 million left in the area, there is that much again for severance taxes and other expenses. So that is the side of the coin that you rarely see, and I thought it only proper for you to know this so that you would have the benefit of what is going on from the standpoint of free enterprise in our area. I will do my work and see how many other stockholders we have throughout the world. I'm sorry I didn't know that.
That's not necessary. But what I'm trying to stress is that what we're interested in is more industry, not less industry. You know, something that would provide more jobs for the people of Eastern Kentucky. But I suppose if you look back over the history of Eastern Kentucky, you would have to reach the conclusion that there's been absentee ownership, that outsiders have come in, they've taken the wealth from the resources here in Eastern Kentucky, and they've destroyed some of the natural resources, and they've not been utilized to the benefit of the people here in Eastern Kentucky. And the great profits that have been made go elsewhere throughout the country. Now, I suppose anyone who would look at this situation would come to the same conclusion. I'm not from Kentucky, but I can see what's been going on. I know the history of Kentucky, and I know absentee ownership is a part of that.
I do thank you for the opportunity to let me give you at least our side of one operating company in the area. We are proud of the area and like the area. You will not find any better group of workers. Frankly, I might end by saying that publicly, I'm sorry we don't have jobs for every person here, but we are one company. We are proud of being here. We feel like we are doing a good job, and I wouldn't want you to leave thinking that any operating company was bad.
What's your profit per ton?
Well, you may be in competition with me, I don't know. I'll say this, that it fluctuates, and a couple of years ago we lost money.
Well, let's just say, how much is it now?
Our profits today?
Yes. What was it last year? I just want an answer.
The profit on our tonnage here at Zigzag, some years we lose money.
But Bethlehem, by and large, has done pretty well.
We lose money on our coal here some years.
All right. What was it last year?
Last year, profit was about 20 cents a ton, and yet you have to spend millions of dollars to put these properties in and maintain them and continue the operation as we have.
Right.
The thing we are losing sight of, even though we recognize the problems in our area, we feel as though the word profit is a dirty word. And I think there is no shame in private industry making a profit, especially in our case where the profits are monies that are spent here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. I do want to say that when I came here, I knew I was walking into a lion's den, but I thank you anyway.
I don't know about you, but Mr. Johnson, I'd like to hear from Mr. Johnson.
I appreciate the efforts of President Johnson and a few congressmen and senators who try to help us poor people. But so far, they have hardly reached the poor man. You see, 99% of the money appropriated for poverty in Eastern Kentucky is spent long before it reaches us. Office workers and other well-educated men and women draw large salaries, and the poor man gets the crumbs that fall from their table. The poor man has to stand in line for hours hoping to get a measly little handout. He is as much out of place in their air-conditioned offices as a worm in a miniskirt. My total income is $60 a month. Food stamps take out of this about $26, which is badly needed for light bills and school lunches and 100 other things. The more you make, the more they take. How can a poor man get on top?
And how much in food stamps do you have a month? Did you say $126?
No, sir. I get $112 of stamps, and it cost me $26 to get them. You know, I got 9 children in school. And in this day and time, if you pack a lunch, you laugh at it. And if you don't have no money for the lunch bill, you're in a heap of trouble.
So you support 15 people in your family on $112 a month food stamps?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and that means, what do you have, $14 left for everything else?
Well, that's all the income you can see. $112 don't last very long. I get out and do the best I can, trading traffic around.
Well, let me just ask you this. How long do those food stamps last?
The food stamps last about a couple of weeks. And, from then on, it's beans and bread, and the next week it's bread and beans. We change it around so as to get better meals.
But realistically, that's $2 a week, which is about, 30 cents a day?
That's right.
That's a dime a meal.
That's all the income of God.
Are you able to save anything?
We catch the rest. Just like back in the old mountaineer days, you catch what you eat.
You will get a chance to divert their food stamps to other needs. Well, we have some people that try to pay rent with them. We have some people that try to buy clothing, shoes. We even have people trying to pay for transportation with them. Because they need those things more than they need additional food. And it's not in line with the economic needs right now. It's not in balance.
Do you think you could get by on $112 worth of food stamps for 15 people?
I couldn't possibly. I'm on a different level.
Oh, I'll bring Mr. Johnson back and you can explain that to him.
Well, not to say anything about Mr. Johnson, but he has needs and other means supply his needs. He has a demand for cigarettes. And I noticed he smoked from a fresh pack today. And those cost money. They don't provide nourishment. Now, Mr. Johnson will have to make a choice on how to spend his money, because people are going to make a choice. You give them more food stamps than they can accommodate, they're going to divert those to other uses.
Now, here's a man with $40 to support a family of 15, and you're telling this committee if you give him more food stamps, he'll have too much to eat.
Now, he says he has $60 in income, not $40, and $122 worth of food is a great deal more than he was eating before the program.
Well, I agree it's better than nothing. It's better than $90. It's better than $100, but it's still not satisfactory. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your testimony. I appreciate everything that's been put in the record. We're going to close this hearing at the present time. I have an appointment with the Head Start class to read them a story. Thank you.
We're going to go with Mr. Edwin.
Let's go.
We're going to head straight to the car.
Okay. Let's go.
Senator Kennedy is moving down the road to read a story to the Head Start children. You will be able to hear that by following him, and it will also be on WMMT 88.7 if you are unable to get there on time.
No, I broke. I broke earlier.